Well, hi folks, welcome to the channel and thanks for joining me. So today we're going to take a quick look at this Panasonic RQ-830S. So this is the old Dynamite Panasonic 8-track player. The idea being that once you press the plunger, it's supposed to spin onto the next track, and this basically becomes the track select mechanism. Now, in this particular one, it doesn't work. Now, I knew that when I bought it. I'm in the UK. I've imported this from the US. So what with shipping charges and import duties and all the rest of it, it wasn't cheap, but I thought it might be a nice little project to work on. I've already restored a blue one of these, so do check out the video for that on the channel. But anyway, let me just see if I can, if we can get this thing started up. So I've had a quick look at the battery compartment and the terminals are quite corroded. Not too bad, and I reckon we'll be able to sort that out, but it's not going to be any good for testing it now. There's also a DC in 9 volts, and I can't remember if it's positive or negative tip, so I'm not gonna chance it until we look inside. I do, however, have mains voltage, and we've got some serious vibration going on from the motor there. Okay. But let's just see if it works. So I'm just going to put an 8-track cart in now. Yep, that seems to be working fine. Yep, that's okay. Good. So, oh, hello. Yeah, I'll unplug that. So it's obviously playing okay. The mechanism is working all right, and the head seems to be clean and all of the rest of it. So I think what we'll do now is actually take the back off, see if we can't get in and see what's up with it. So just the 4 screws. Let's just put those screws safe for a moment. And we should be able to open this up now. Just be mindful not to trap the actual door as we open this. There she goes. Right, that didn't sound good, did it? Now that wasn't me. It was obviously the part that's broken. Right, okay, so here we have it. So what's gone then? Let's just see what's broken. Right, okay, so right, we have ourselves the wheel, which obviously tells us which track we're on. Ah, okay. And then a small piece there, which probably that normally would retain. That would normally retain the plunger mechanism there, like so, and that probably normally presses in like so. Almost wants to go. So with that in mind, okay, this isn't too bad, I think. So let me just take this back off for a moment, somewhere safe. So basically there's going to be some sort of ratchet right, yeah. So there's a cog. The bottom of this one has, we'll come in for a closer look in a minute, but essentially we've got a stepped ratchet gear on the bottom of this pulley or roller. The spring, when we depress the plunger, yeah, so that's working okay, and the return spring is okay, but what it's doing, it's not quite locking and advancing as the way it's supposed to. So that might either be a function of the roller, or it might be a function of the actual return tang underneath. But all in all, I've got to say, this doesn't look like it's going to be a terribly big job. What I might do is desolder the speaker perhaps, and then at least we can sort of move everything around and have a proper poke and a proper look without having to worry about dragging this other half of the mechanism around with us. So that transformer hum, yeah, just needs just needs to be isolated. That's fine. Good stuff. Right, let's just unplug that before we electrocute ourselves. So it would appear then, looking into here, that the pull on the lever at the bottom wants to work. The teeth on the bottom of this cog seem to be okay. So just having a closer look at this, and it looks like we've got that stepped gear wheel there, look, and as we try to press the plunger, it kind of wants to go, and there's a cog, all the cog mechanism underneath. The gearing seems to work fine, and I think what's supposed to happen is the actual head elevator should be sprung under that well, compressed back down really from that spring there, and lock that engagement screw, which is going to be the adjustment screw just there. That should lock into that wheel, and that's what should form the step every time we change the track. But the head elevator is completely seized. I think really all it is, it's that grease down there is so gunked and gone so hard that I genuinely think that that's just not moving, and if it were all lubricated and freed up, it should spring down and hold itself against that wheel and stop it from rotating back. So I think what we'll do is we'll get this out and give it a darn good degrease, re-lube it, and see if we can get some movement back into the whole head elevator mechanism. I think I'm going to have a go at actually getting everything out of here just to take a closer look at it really. So first things first, I'm going to take the plunger mechanism out. Now, I'm pretty sure we're not going to need to do any of this to do what we need to achieve, but it might be nice just to have a look and see how it all works. So the plunger literally is a very simple sprung loaded mechanism. Obviously that operates that actuator there. So there's a screw there that holds the board on. We'll just unscrew that. There's a little bit of glue just holding that as well. There we go. Right, because this particular part, once we undo the screws and pop it out, we can actually get to the faceplate to scrub that separately. Also, there's a few little gouges on the side there as well, so I'm going to polish those out, and it'd be easier to sand those out once that speaker grill is removed. So we'll put that to one side for a moment. Right, okay, so then the power inlets will just slide into their respective grooves, in theory at least. Okay, there's the DC jack and there's the AC. Also going to remove the mains transformer as well. It was working okay, but there was some resonance in there, so we'll need to I'm just going to mount this on a little bit of silicone or some rubber washers or something later, so we can take that away anyway. Right, just making a note of the cable runs now. Let's see if we can remove this now. Of course, we'll still be held in place to a degree by the battery leads. The mechanism was running pretty well. I might put a drop of oil on the motor motor spindle a bit later, but actually that unit itself wasn't running too badly. Well, I think we've sorted it. I was a bit worried that the actual step mechanism on the nylon bushing had worn, but it hasn't. Basically, there's a little metal tang just here, and that in turn acts on the cog as a stopper, like a ratchet on the bottom of that post. And so as we now press the button down, it holds it in place to allow it to turn. So now what it's doing is the spring is pulling it round, and each time it goes up one of these steps against that adjustment screw just there, it's now plunging around. So you can see, if you watch the top of the spindle, that'll be your track display post will be on that. In fact, where is it? Here we go. So this will probably fall off now, but you'll get the idea. There you go. Sweet. Good. Well, that's great news. So we've in reality, a tiny drop of contact cleaner and a bit of lube down on that screw would literally have fixed the issue. However, it's nice to get in here, because what we're going to do is give the potentiometer a bit of a clean as well, just because we can get to it. Basically, yeah, I think we're just gonna, we might end up just putting this back together, you know, and polishing the case from the outside, because the mechanism itself is okay. And again, got no complaints. Bit of PTFE spray on the mechanism there, but to be honest with you, that's absolutely fine. That's going to be great. I think we'll not quite get it back together yet, because what I want to do is strip this out. Let me just zoom out a minute. What I want to do is basically pop out the screen, give it a good scrub, polish out these scratches on the sides, these gouges just there, and yeah, then we can start putting it back together, and I think we'll have it fixed. Good news. And so then, to remove the speaker grill, just got, I think it's 4 screws. I remember the last time I did this, got myself in a bit of a state, because I'd removed all of the perimeter screws, namely these 3, plus the spring there for the door, which you have to make sure you get in the right place when you refit. And I was trying to pop these plugs and everything, and trying to get these tabs out, and it wouldn't go. Turned out it was this little fella in the middle. I don't know why I missed it the first time I ever did one of these, but anyways, so that's that. And I'm hoping, just be careful, because they can be a little bit brittle, and I am expecting that we might end up breaking one, but the plan is gentle pressure on the tabs, as we also apply gentle pressure on the speaker grill. That should want to make it go away, like so. That's it. And we've just got the backing felt there. Great. So that allows us to get properly in there now. Give this a nice, really decent scrub. You will notice, or you may notice, there's some ultra fine sort of circumferential lines. If I just drag my nail, there's millions of little lines around there, so it's got some really nice detail in it. And yeah, I reckon we'll give this a scrub. We can now also actually probably remove, and why not, remove the felt. There we go. I'll call that a win. That's it, because that literally is almost like dirty glue rather than anything else. So there we go then, we can get that off, and the little window can stay in. That's kind of, I think at least, the window actually is just a case of a bit of glue there, and you can twist that and pop it out, but to be honest, we can clean that in situ. That's absolutely fine. Okay guys, so this is where we're at. This is the now basically empty front casing. As I say, we've left the little the window in there. There's no need to get that out for what it is. So that'll allow us to fix some of this damage on the front there. We can sand that out and then buff the whole unit, which will be lovely, and give it a good scrub and a polish. Here we have the retainers and indeed the faceplate there for the speaker grill with its felt, which is just there. Those are the mounting screws, I believe, for the circuit board. Then we've got a few there for actually mounting the mechanism as a whole to the chassis. There's the plunger mechanism. There's the workings with the speaker and the transformer and the AC and DC inlets. And then here's the rear chassis part. Now, yes, it is pretty grimy, and I'm going to give this a restoration. I am going to polish this up. In an ideal world, I would have taken this off entirely and buffed it all up as a single piece of plastic. The battery terminals do need to be cleaned. However, there's, I say, issues with it really, but to be honest, then what we're going to have to do is cut away where these are molded in place, sort of melted the plastic to seal them in. That's got to be cut away. These will have to be unpicked. It can be really quite tricky sometimes to get everything re-tinned properly to connect these back up to the springs and stuff. So I'm going to let sleeping dogs lie, but give these a good clean in situ. And the thing is, because it's a four batteries as well, you've got to hook up all, as I say, there's 4 cables there. Look, 1, 2, they trace through there. Then there's 2 more going through this side. And to make matters worse, and this was the nail in the coffin for me on this particular project in terms of taking the contacts out, is the fact that yes, these ones are actually melted in place, but there's also a bar across the middle, so this one doesn't slide out. If that had been the case, I'd have gone for it, but when I turned it over, you realise that actually to get the bottom ones out, you've also got to unmelt or remelt, whatever you like, and remove these end caps at the bottom. And it's just such a lot of not just work and aggravation, it's more to the point that it's going to be so destructive doing that, and it's going to probably make a big mess trying to melt it all back together. I'm just going to leave everything attached. So the plan is then, what we're going to do is give this a good buff and a polish, just polish some life and some years back into it and repair this damage around the side. We will scrub and polish up the speaker grill. We've just basically lubricated that mechanism. That's perfect. It will need a clean and a polish and stuff, and that's fine. We'll put everything back together. It was playing really well, and I don't think I have a spare belt actually of that size at the moment. So it's playing well, so we know where the belt is if we ever want to get to it. The potentiometer wasn't giving us any problems, any crackling or anything before, so we don't have to do anything with that. As I say, it's playing quite nicely. It sounds good, so I'm going to let the capacitors be and everything else. I'm just going to leave it be. We've lubricated the riser for the mechanism, so that's working. So that you can see the head mechanism up, down, 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 and back to the top. That's working fine. So there we go. So that's kind of where we're at. It's a bit of a mess, as you can imagine, but that's what we do sometimes with these things. It's worth it in the end, because you can't make an omelette without breaking the eggs, as they say. Anyway, enough of this nonsense. Let's start cleaning it up. Okay, there's the speaker grill cleaned. All I've done is basically scrub that with soapy water. I'm not going to put any vinyl cleaner or plastic shine or anything like that on it, because that's the original finish that would have been on there. So I'm quite happy with that. It's cleaned up really nicely. The lettering's great. So yep, that's that all done. I've also just gone ahead and polished up the front case. As you can see, that's so much better now. I've polished out most of the scratches around the perimeter. Haven't been too fussy about it because it does need to have a certain patina, I guess, but you can see from the actual body there that it's a lot cleaner now. It looks really fantastic. Now I won't be able to use the same sort of motorized buffer on the rear case because, as I said before, it's already attached to everything on there, but I might yet put it together, mask some of it off and actually use the mechanical buffer. But if you check out my video on the blue TNT that I did, I actually buffed that by hand with some car cutting compound. It did come up beautifully, so I'll probably just do that on the back. But anyway, that's where we're at. So I've also got to polish up the plunger mechanism, of course. But yeah, excited to get all this back together now, so let's get on with it. Okay, so first up, we'll just put the felt back in, and there we go. Already now, those scratches that were in the side look so much better. That looks fantastic already. So just got to screw all this back together now. So the middle one had the washer on it. Then we had the two perimeter ones. Plus the one with the door spring. Before I do put it back together, I'm just going to put that drop of oil on the motor spindle. Just a tiny drop. That will certainly not do any harm. Plus also the obligatory clean of the pulleys as well. So just a little bit of alcohol on the bearing surface for the bout. This may never have actually been done before, so always worth it. So to change the belt then, we've got the keeper attached by one screw, and it's fair to say from that sound I don't think this has ever been out before. And there's the spring. And we'll also clean the bearing surface for the belt as well on this side, on the actual flywheel. There we go, that's not too bad. That will actually flash off pretty quickly, but I'll just use some clean towel just for there. Right, next thing then is to find a suitable belt. So to get the new belt on, literally pop it underneath the keeper like so, over the pulley, make sure it's not twisted. It's spinning well and it's not slipping, which is great, so that's all good news. That's the belt there, and then we just put the screw back in. Marvellous, good. Right, now to load the mechanism back into the unit as a whole. This is where it all starts to get fun now. And we should be able, should be a case of lining it all back up. There we go, just lining those screws up. Right, DC is in, AC is in, and then the power transformer is there. And I remember those cables, that's right, go that way like so. There's two countersunk ones at the front, one just at the back there. and the screw to mount the circuit board onto the post up here. There we go, that is better. I'm just going to do a little bit of gentle sanding and polishing on the bottom edge there at some point when this is back together as part of the final clean. But for now, she's almost back together. Exciting times. So, right. First things first, let's just test this plunger mechanism, see if the head assembly works. Yep, it is. So down, 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 up. Fantastic. You probably see that better through there. So the head comes up, down one, down one, down one, and back up again. Magic. Right, well, I think what we'll do is we'll just put some power in, put a cart in. Actually, while we're at it, we'll clean the running gear as well. We'll clean the head and the rollers and stuff, and just get that nice. Then we'll put a cartridge in and just check that the alignment is okay in case we need to actually make any minor adjustments to the head position with the screws here. So you can see the head there. I've just given that a clean, just some IPA. Also just cleaned the actual switch contacts as well, if you can see just inside the door. But there's your sensors there, your sensor contacts for the track change. So just giving that a little bit of a clean as well. You can't really see what I'm doing as I'm doing that, but there we go. Actually, you can probably see it better that way. There we go. Lovely. I'll use a 9 volts, I think, just using a DC adapter for this. So I'm just going to check continuity. Yep, so it's center negative on this one. So I'm just going to use a variable voltage power supply. It's set to about 9 volts at the moment for the barrel plug, and we just want to check that we're getting 9 volts, positive 9 volts with the negative pin. So there we go, 9.3. Obviously, if it were center positive, you'd have the positive reading plus 9 volts, but at the moment it's reading minus 9 volts because it's actually center negative, which is what we want. Okay, so we're hooked up to 9 volts now. I'm going to put the cartridge in and see what happens. Good, that's working. So we'll now go for the first plunge in however many years, we don't know, but we've hopefully repaired the mech. So, and there it is. And again. And again. And again. Oh, that's just come to the end of the song, so that's okay. So we've set it now so that it is rising to the very top. And we'll change. And change again. And again. Perfect. And there's no crossover. I'll just remove the cart now. There's no crossover of the tracks, which means that the head is aligned in the right place, so it drops onto just the right place on the tape. That's great news. So all we've got to do now is refit the speaker, refit the transformer, and put it all back together again. Right, so we're just going to get this speaker back in then. So we'll line that up exactly where it was. Tiny bit tricky with the access to this screw. I think we should be able to get that back down through the gap between the cables there. And I'm just going to put a little drop of hot glue just on that tab, just to stop any vibration. Also, while we're at it as well, we'll put a little bit on the transformer posts. Just put a tiny bit in there, just like almost like makeshift washers really. I'm hoping that'll be enough then, just to take the resonance out. There was a little bit of vibration from the motor. So I think what we'll do is actually plug it into the mains now and see if that worked. Right, let's carefully put this in, off the mains power this time. And the final thing, of course, is actually just to mount this back on. And I think actually we'll start at, I think it's number 1. I'll just check that. Yep, that looks right. Because as we click down, it moves down through the tracks, and the first track is at the top. So that's that. And there's a little little plastic trim piece that snaps into there. And as we plunge it, and the reference point we're looking for is this, where the 2 is at the moment, becomes a 3, becomes a 4, becomes a 1, because that's the orientation that it will actually be showing when it's in situ, like so. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and again we'll just plug it in and double check it. So we've got the power back in, put the cartridge back in, and there it is. Perfect. Right, we'll get the back casing screws on, give it a buff, and we'll call it a day. Next job then, cleaning these grotty little battery contacts. First thing we're going to use is just some traditional contact cleaner. Just trying to get rid of the rust if you can. I've also got a proprietary rust remover as well, which I might try. It's a rust dissolver. It's just a little bit, you don't need loads, but hopefully that'll start to get rid of some of it. Do the same on the springs as well. Well, that's fabulous news. I've just had that hooked up to a 9-volt supply in the battery compartment, and it is working. I didn't have the right size batteries to actually plug them in, so I'll get some at a later date and do that. But at least we know it all works now, which is fabulous. So I think, given all that good news, what we'll do is treat the back to the same treatment as the front. So I think I'm going to mask some of this off. You can probably see the difference actually between the front that was done and the back that wasn't. It's kind of just like a different colour, slightly duller, not as reflective, not as shiny, not as nice. You can see there, look, on this side in particular. So I think I'm actually going to go and get some masking tape on this, and you know what, I think I'm going to go for it and yeah, give this a bit of a buff, I think. Right, so she's ready to be buffed up now. Obviously we've already done the front side of it, but I want to make sure that everything else gets protected. So That's why that's all covered up with some cloth and taped up. Also taped up, of course, the door, and left as much as the rear case available to polish as we can. Finally, I think just protecting the original sticker on the back there with some masking tape, and of course the inlets for the power. So now that's done, we can go outside and get the buffer on this, and next time I see you, this should look an awful lot better. So I've just buffed up the rear casing now. You can see that bit of a haze. I've buffed it and waxed it as well, so that'll come up quite nicely in a minute. We'll go ahead in a minute and clean that up. You'll see how nice that is. We've left a few little scratches and stuff on there. At the end of the day, we want to leave a tiny bit of patina on there. We want to make it look as pretty as we can, but it still is several decades old, so we want to show some signs of wear at least. So all I'm going to do now is go ahead and take off all of this masking and polish it up, and then we'll have the final reveal. So here it is then, the RQ-830S from Panasonic. So I bought this one all the way over from the States. It did cost a pretty penny, what with shipping, import duties, VAT and all that kind of stuff. But I knew it'd be worth it. It wasn't really a basket case per se. Structurally it was okay, and it did seem to play all right. But there was a problem with the mains transformer was humming. There were some gouges in the casing. The main thing though really was that the plunger didn't work. Now of course this is the TNT or Dynamite 8-track player, and without the plunger it wasn't really very good, was it? So it was only ever going to be fixed on one track. So what did we do? Well, we've basically given the case a good clean for a start, cleaned the head and the running gear, filed out and polished up the major scratches on the casing. We've also stripped out the interior, given that a bit of a going over, replaced the belt and cleaned the running surfaces for the belt. We've put a drop of oil on the motor spindle. But the most important thing that we've done really is indeed fix the plunger mechanism. I think what had happened, judging by the state of the unit, which actually wasn't too bad, I've got a feeling it was probably put away not too long after it was bought, or at least having only had fairly little use. The head was really clean, and it looked like it was the original belt on there. So I think it was literally put away, and the grease had basically dried up and gone hard, and the mechanism had seized. And then obviously when someone had gone to use it, it just didn't work anymore. It just wouldn't change tracks. So now that we've cleaned and lubricated that, as I say, the plunger now works really well. So that's great. I've also just put some a little bit of hot glue back on the speaker and on the transformer mounts, just to take out any vibrations there. And yeah, overall she's absolutely smashing example now. So I've got her running off DC. She also runs off batteries as well now, so that's good. We've cleaned the battery contacts up, and I'm going to put a bit of trusty Neil Diamond in at the moment, if we can, with one hand, and hear her in action. There we go. And change track. There we go. Beautiful. And 3 and 4 and back to 1. So of course what's important with that is you've got to make sure that the head alignment is correct when you drop between the different tracks, and that's all sorted. So everything's perfectly tickety-boo on this now. It's a cracky little example. I'm really pleased with it. It's great to have the yellow one on the channel. Do check out my blue one that I've restored as well, and check out my other videos on boomboxes, 8-track players of course, and personal stereos. If you're into your retro tech, you know where to find me. So thanks again for watching, and I'll be back soon. All the best for now. Bye bye.